Cinemassacre's Monster Madness.
Today we're talking about Halloween Ends, the final chapter in the new Halloween trilogy. This new one is streaming on Peacock. Look at that poster. Michael and Laurie with their backs to each other. Looks like a buddy cop movie. Anyway, how does Halloween end? Is this the fulfilling conclusion that we needed? Or does it end in the toilet? You don't want to know. But if you do, here's what I think, at least. But first, a word from this video's sponsor. October, my favorite time of year, and the perfect time to celebrate horror movies. And there's no better way to do that than with In Search of Darkness Part 3, the epic conclusion to everyone's favorite series of 80s horror documentaries. At over 5 hours, this is the longest In Search of Darkness yet. It's insane. And it's the stuff we love the most. The direct-to-video and shot-on-video classics we'd rent over and over from the video store. The final installment features interviews with over 70 horror icons and experts, including myself. And I'm in good company with the likes of John Carpenter, Robert Englund, Barbara Crampton, and even Screaming Mad George joining the fun. You can purchase In Search of Darkness Part 3 by itself, or if you're new to the series, you can get the whole trilogy. Go to 80shorrordoc.com or click the link in the description, but hurry, it's only available until midnight on Halloween, so time is ticking. I suppose I should recap my opinions of the new trilogy. Well, there was the one from 2018, the one called Halloween, which is a sequel to Halloween. I thought it was okay. It was shot really well, especially that one long take. That was incredible. The new music cues were amazing. Great seeing Jamie Lee Curtis back. There were a few cringe moments here and there, like when the psychiatrist puts on the mask. But as a sequel, it was fine. To be honest, I never thought it needed another sequel. This was a pretty definitive ending. But of course, everything always has to be a trilogy. So then came Halloween Kills, which was totally unnecessary. I did enjoy the flashbacks to 1978. The shots of the neighborhood were very atmospheric, and I loved all that. But the plot was a little convoluted with some logic issues. The idea of the whole town going crazy was interesting and might have looked good on paper, but the execution wasn't so great. And Jamie Lee going from such an epic battle in the last movie to now spending the entire film on a hospital bed was disappointing. And now we have Halloween Ends. Well, if you were to ask me which Halloween sequel I think is the worst, this might be it. It's down there with number 6, both cuts. I wish I could say better, but wow. Holy shit. Keep in mind, this is just my opinion, and it's just a first impression. I hope you have a better experience with it. So why do I think it's so bad? I probably have to get into spoilers here. So if you want to just see it for yourself, here's your spoiler warning. So first of all, you think this is a Michael Myers movie. It's not. Remember in part 6 how it kind of forgets about Michael and makes it all about some thorn cult? It demotes Michael into just being some kind of pawn. This one also demotes him, but in a totally different kind of way. Instead of it being the story of Michael Myers, it's the story of some poor guy named Corey. In the opening scene, he's babysitting some kid. The kid acts like a brat and locks Corey in a dark room. Corey panics, kicks the door open, accidentally hitting the kid, knocking him over the balcony to the stairs. He brutally hits the floor and dies instantly just as the parents are walking in. So now Corey's accused of murder. But we skip over any court proceeding. It's all about everyone, including random people, calling him a killer and giving him a real hard time about it. Never has he had a motive for murder, and not once does anybody try to hear about what actually happened and that it was an accident. Anyway, Laurie is being blamed for the previous attacks by Michael Myers. Michael, by the way, has been missing since the events of Halloween Kills. The reason why Laurie's being blamed is very sketchy. They say she instigated the killings, that she provoked Michael and all that with her hysteria. Even her granddaughter, Allison, blames her. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. Meanwhile, Corey hooks up with Allison. which comes out of nowhere. From the moment she sees him, she's like obsessed with him. Very forced. There's even a part where they're dancing in a bar. Bars are never that exciting in real life. So one night, the bullies, calling Corey a child killer, push him over a bridge where he ends up in a sewer that leads to a cave. Feels a lot like something Stephen King would write, but not in a good way. And you know who lurks down in those sewers? It's Michael. At 40 minutes into the film, Michael Myers finally shows up. But he's weakened and decrepit, as if all that damage he took finally caught up with him. He stares into Corey's eyes and sort of transfers his power into him. Wow. Just wow. So it's like we're passing the torch to Corey as the new killer. It's like they're trying to draw some kind of connection between them. Michael was a kid who murdered his older sister, and Corey is a guy who accidentally killed a kid while he was babysitting. Their stories are not close enough to connect. But now, Corey is actually becoming the killer that the townspeople think he is. He lures Allison's mean ex-boyfriend into the cave for Michael to kill, but not before Michael is kicked to the ground. Yes, Corey has to actually help Michael overtake the guy. This is one of the most fatal flaws. Michael is no longer imposing. He goes down like a wuss. Later, Corey actually wrestles Michael to the ground with hardly any fight and takes his mask off. So now Corey is going around with the mask on. It draws some similarities to Friday the 13th Part 5, where it's somebody else wearing the mask, or kind of like Jason Goes to Hell, where he transfers himself into other bodies. You could make similar criticisms towards those, but with this being the last Michael Myers movie, at least for now, and being promoted as the final battle, it's a straight up insult to the character. He's hardly seen, and when he is, he's in such a sorry, pathetic state, getting his ass handed to him. It's especially weird since in the 2018 movie, they made him so strong. He could simply step on somebody's head and splatter it like a melon, and he almost seems immortal. They went the full Jason Voorhees route. And after the beating he takes at the end of Halloween Kills, he just seems invincible. But now, he's just like a fucking ragdoll. Laurie's relationship with Corey takes a lot of turns. At first, it seems like she's trying to help him. She fends off the bullies who are messing with him. She takes him to a doctor, but then she sees the evil in his eyes as if sensing Michael through him, and she tells him to stay away from her daughter. At one point, she has a talk with him and says something about how there's two kinds of evil, the kind that exists on the outside and the evil that lives inside of us, like a sickness or an infection. I started to feel the pretentious dialogue sinking in, like the movie's trying to have a message, but it's all over the place. Halloween Kills tried to do something with the idea of the hysteria and paranoia sweeping over the town, and I appreciate that a lot of thought went into it. I thought the 2018 movie was too simple and it didn't try to rise above anything, but now I feel like I appreciate the 2018 movie even more because it didn't try so hard. I liked the simplicity of it. Sure, it wasn't perfect, could have been better, but the two follow-ups are too ambitious. I can imagine that hearing a pitch for these ideas would have sounded great, but the end result doesn't come off so well. I think the idea of making a movie about other killers could have been done, the idea that the evil is everywhere and takes different forms. If you remember that scene in the original Halloween when the cemetery caretaker is telling Loomis that story about the guy who butchered his family, he's insinuating that every town has some kind of story like that. So maybe they could have explored that idea, but not as the final entry of the Michael Myers series. The logic is real questionable and downright frustrating at times. For example, I've already said spoiler alert, but there's this moment where Laurie shoots Corey while he's wearing the mask, and I thought she didn't know it's him, but then the mask comes off and she keeps on going, so she knew. And he somehow survived the bullet. And then he slits his throat with a knife, and now it looks like Laurie didn't want it to happen. So Allison walks in and sees it, blaming Laurie for killing him, even though she did in fact put a bullet in him just moments ago. But Laurie is crying now. I never knew what the character's motives were. I mean, nothing ever made sense. So Corey gets shot, slits his neck with a knife, and then gets his neck snapped. Was there anything I liked? Well, I liked that it was more serious. It didn't have as many of those weird, out-of-place, humorous moments of the previous films. I liked that they were watching John Carpenter's The Thing on the TV. It's a tribute to Carpenter, as well as a tribute to his own tribute of the original The Thing, which they were watching in the first Halloween. So it was cool to see the tribute come full circle like that. It had one of the best kills of the series, even though it was totally out of place and exaggerated. It was when Michael smashes and totally mangles the radio DJ's face, then cuts his tongue off for no reason and lets it spin around the record. Wow. I don't know what that was about, but at least it made me laugh. Also, the ending. I don't want to spoil it, just to keep one thing in mystery. You at least know they're going to destroy Michael in some way, for good. Well, I think it's the best Michael Myers death of the entire series. Not just the way he's disposed of, but the way the whole scene is done. I was impressed. So that's one major win here, but it doesn't save the film. So in my opinion, the 2018 film should have been the last. Kills and Ends feel like completely different movies, completely different ideas. They don't even exist on the same streaming service. 2018 I found on Amazon, Kills is on HBO Max, and Ends is on Peacock. For something that's meant to be a trilogy, they couldn't even keep it all in the same place to watch. So what's next? If one thing's for sure, this is not the end. Give it 5 years max, they'll make another.